What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So look, y'all, I'm not at home currently, so I don't have my ring light to have the proper lighting. So I just asked that y'all bear with me because I wanted to make a video concerning this topic. So by now, everybody knows about the situation that occurred between head coach of Alabama State football team, Eddie Robinson Jr., and the head coach of Jackson State University, Deion Primetime Sanders, right? So they had a situation after the game, when coaches are supposed to exchange pleasantries. Eddie Robinson Jr. and Deion Sanders went in for the handshake and a little bro hug. Eddie Robinson Jr. extended the hand for the handshake, but when Deion tried to come in and bring it in with the hug, Eddie Robinson Jr. did like this, put his hands on Deion's chest, basically rejecting the hug and the bro hug. He said he didn't want no part of that. Deion Sanders pushes Eddie Robinson's hand off of his chest out the way, right? At first, I thought that Eddie Robinson jerked his hand away from Deion. But when I looked from the other angle, Eddie Robinson Jr. placed his hand on Deion Sanders' chest, basically to block the hug after he gave him the handshake. And Deion Sanders pushed his hand out of the way, and it was a whole big deal after the fact, right? People are saying Eddie Robinson Jr., he basically was classless in that situation. He was salty about losing, so on and so forth, right? So I'm going to analyze the situation and tell you what everybody did wrong in this situation. And if I'm here to say this, if you think it's just going to be 100% Deion Sanders can do no wrong fest, this is not the video for you. I'm a realist, and I'm going to tell you the real about this situation. So it all starts with the fact that Alabama State schedules Jackson State for their homecoming game. Now, in the HBCU culture, everybody knows that during homecoming, you're supposed to schedule somebody. Most teams schedule somebody they can beat, somebody they can mollywop on, so that the alums can come back to the school and have pride in their school. They can have something to beat their chest about. Yeah, man, my school went in there and dogged that team. So the alumni can have great school spirit. Homecoming week is a school spirit celebration, right? At HBCUs, well, at every school, but at HBCUs, it's a time for the alums to come back and feel pride in their school, right? Some alums haven't come back in a while. They come in checking out all the new facilities all around campus, and they come into the game looking to see a fantastic show. So you're only supposed, most teams schedule somebody they think they can beat. So Deion Sanders and Jackson State program took that as disrespect. They scheduling our team during homecoming week. They think they just gonna whoop on us and they gonna walk all over us, right? Deion Sanders say, listen, they scheduled us for homecoming week. Nah, they gonna learn not to do that ever again. I'm paraphrasing, but Deion Sanders, like, they know that was a mistake. We gonna let them know that was a mistake. They ain't gonna do that no more. That ain't just something that, we ain't, basically Deion Sanders say, we ain't nobody doormat. You ain't scheduling us for no homecoming, right? All right, so you got competitive banter going on. Deion Sanders talking about the game. Deion Sanders always talks about how they seek to dominate their opponents. They seek domination, right? And, coaches are supposed to preach that to their teams. So there's really nothing wrong with that. However, the opposing team could take that personally and say, you know what? Ain't no domination over here. We coming and we standing strong. We standing down. We ain't letting y'all walk all over us. We going to come out and we going to put up a rigorous effort. We going to put up a valiant effort to stop y'all and get this win. So gamesmanship back and forth. Deion Sanders talking that talk is really great for the SWAC in general because people love to see Deion Sanders do anything because he is what people call a football god. Now, a football god, not a god. I don't believe no man on this earth is a god, but he's a football god, a football giant. So people are enamored with whatever Deion Sanders does, right? So fast forward to the game time. I guess Deion, I don't know, Eddie Robinson Jr. had been taking the talk that Deion was talking about, domination and all this and all of that. He took that as disrespect. And I don't think Eddie Robinson Jr. should have been taking that personally because every team, like, a coach is supposed to preach that. But I think it rings, I think it rings louder from Deion Sanders because Deion always has a camera and a microphone in front of his face compared to other SWAC coaches of the past because of who Deion Sanders was in the NFL. He's an NFL Hall of Famer, one of the greatest football players to ever roam this earth, right? So people are going to always follow him because it's like, oh my God, this is prime time. And so that type of talk from Deion is getting a lot more coverage than it would from any other SWAC coach normally. So I think Eddie Robinson Jr. was hearing that all week and he was getting agitated and irritated by that, right? Fast forward to the game. The game time comes. Deion Sanders is walking the length of the field, walking all through the field, right? Now, Deion Sanders says this is something that he always does, and I believe it to be true. He always roams the field, all walks the field all the time, getting his prayer in, so on and so forth. That's what he does. That's what he did in the NFL, right? Now, when he's walking the length of the field, he walks through like the pregame huddle. He walking through their huddle all throughout they he walking through Alabama State's they sideline, walking all over there through their little huddle and all that, walking through or walking around, not walking directly through their huddle, but walking all around through their side, where their players are standing, where their players are preparing for the game, walking through their area, right? And I'm going to say Deion Sanders was wrong for that. I'm sorry. I don't care how much he normally does that. I don't care how much that is a part of his routine. Walking through the opposing teams, walking through they sideline situation, they pregame huddle, they pregame warm up on the sideline. That ain't cool. That's not okay. And I have to say it's not okay. That is disrespectful. It is. Like, and whether it's, he could have walked, like, I guess, stayed away from where they was at on a walk alongside the wall or something like that, but walking through where they at, where their players are and where they practicing or prepping for the game, that's disrespectful. And it would be disrespectful for any other coach to do that. A lot of people are excusing it simply because it's Deion Primetime Sanders. And I love Deion just as much as y'all do, right? I believe Deion Sanders, if I played football, I would want to go play for that guy, because of the not just the bravado, but the way he can galvanize a group of men, the way he can inspire players, the way he can relate to a lot of the young men coming to play for these institutions, coming to play college football. Right, he can relate to them in a lot of ways that other coaches cannot. So, and he understands them. So, I love Deion Sanders just as much as the next person. But no, bro, that's not okay. If Eddie George, former 10,000-yard rusher in the NFL, if Eddie George, who coaches Tennessee State, did that, it would be deemed disrespectful. Any other coach in the SWAC does that is disrespectful. But because it's Deion, people are trying to absolve Deion from doing that. I watched him walk through there. I'm like, no, bro, that's not okay, right? And, Deion and them, people were talking about how the players were cursing at Deion while he's walking through their pregame huddle and their pregame preparation. They like, oh, look, they calling him the B word, calling him an NIGGA and all this and all of that. That's not okay. Yes, that's not okay for them to call him that, right? But Deion also got to understand, walking through the player situation, that's not okay. And it may have been okay in high school and even in the NFL. I'm sure somebody probably cussed at him doing it in the NFL if he did it like that, right? But in college football, man, that is a disrespectful thing. So whether people like it or not, that's not okay. But the boys shouldn't have been calling him out of his name, so on and so forth. They shouldn't have been doing that. But they did take it as disrespect that he coming through. Like, what is he doing over here? Why is he over here? What is he coming on this side for? This is not his team. So, I actually feel that. I don't feel him cursing at him and calling him the N-word or whatever, but, I understand what they said. I understand them being upset. Like, why he coming through here? And I also hear people saying, they wouldn't have did that to Nick Saban. Nick Saban do that. They ain't doing that to Nick Saban. Yes, they would have. I'm sorry, y'all. They would have done that to Nick Saban, Bobby Bowden, any of them other coaches, historic coaches. They would have did that to whoever came through there. Because, and I hate to say this, I'm not bragging about this, the younger generation, they don't give a damn about who you are, your clout, your cachet. If they feel disrespected in any way, they gonna say how they feel. And a lot of times this is what I'm 29 years old. A lot of times the younger generation, I don't like how sometimes, I'm not trying to be this stuck-up old head because I'm a young dude. I'm not no old head at all. I'm older than those players. Some of the younger generation, they can be abrasive. They can be rude in their approach sometimes. But I will say this about them. They demand their respect in a lot of different ways, right? And the younger generation is fearless in a lot of ways. So they don't care nothing about who you are, what name you are, and who you are. They're looking like if they feel disrespected by something that you're doing, they're going to react to it in a disrespectful way. And it may not be acceptable. It's not okay for them to be cussing at him and Deion calling him the N-word. It's not all right. But they did feel like, hold on, what is he doing? Why is he over here doing that? Is he trying to antagonize us in any type of way? Is he trying to intimidate us? Because it can come across as that. Even though Deion Sanders saying that's his praying method and all this and all that, it can come across as, hold on, are you trying to intimidate us walking through here? Like, come on, man, right? Now, and again, any other coach do that, they're gonna be like, no, that's disrespectful. Nah. So, yeah, them boys would have did that to Nick Saban, so on and so forth, whoever. That's just how it go. Y'all know how the younger generation is. Y'all seen y'all little cousins and the little kids in y'all neighborhood, how they be talking. Them kids around their age range. They don't care about if it's Deion Sanders. And furthermore, like I was too young to really watch Deion play for real. So them kids, while they could look at highlights and all this and all of that, they don't. Some of them don't really even know who Deion is like that. And some people would say they need to do their research. True enough, if you're a football player, you should be researching the greats. But what I'm saying is sometimes they don't even connect to them like that because they didn't watch him play during the same time they playing. So it's just like they could be over their head that that's Deion Sanders. And yes, the coach should also tell them, oh man, because Deion Sanders is doing wonders for the SWAC. Wonders. But that don't resonate to them. Now, let's go back to what everybody did wrong. So I feel like this. Eddie Robinson talked about Deion not coming over to speak to him and all this and all of that. I think he was expecting Deion to go out of his way to speak to him, and that's just not realistic, right? Deion Sanders talked about how even when they played Mississippi Valley State, my alma mater, right? Shout out to MVSU Delta Devils, man. He was talking about how Coach Dancy at MVSU was his dog. That's his boy. And he didn't even speak to Coach Dancy before the game and all this and all that, right? Because he was so locked into his pre-game preparation, which includes walking the field and all this and all of that, that he didn't even get a chance to speak to a good friend of his, Coach Dancy, right? So I do think that Eddie Robinson kind of wanted Deion to go out of his way to come and speak to him, which is like, nah, bro, that ain't gonna play out like that, bro. That ain't, nah, man. What else? Oh, so then you got people like, well, Eddie Robinson and them are mad. Well, they can't get mad at Deion. They mad because Deion came through and whooped them after, when they beat Alabama State. When Alabama State beat Jackson State during that COVID year. Deion's first full year, the COVID year season, Alabama State beat Jackson State, right? And they had an image of Deion Sanders on the scoreboard with his Jerry curl in his head after they beat Jackson State. They put Deion Sanders' image up there with the winning, basically showing, hey, look, y'all got prime time, but we beat y'all. Alabama State beat y'all. So they like, well, Eddie Robinson can't get mad at that because look what they did when Deion and them played them the first time around. I want to say Eddie Robinson Jr. was not the head coach. He was not the coach during that time when that happened. He wasn't the coach. But, however, this school did carry that out, and that was there was some jabs at Deion during that time. So they have some history. Let's fast forward to post-game situation. Post-game situation, they asked Eddie Robinson Jr. what happened after the game, why he rejected the hug, why he put his hand in his chest, or whatever. And again, first, remember, we all thought that Eddie Robinson jerked away from Deion at first, but as you see, Deion pushed Eddie Robinson's hand away after Eddie Robinson put his hand on his chest after he extended the handshake. He says basically, I'm not going to do the bro hug situation. We can shake hands just for mutual respect, but I'm not going to be bro hugging you after you didn't try to trash talk and trash my team and then disrespect them by walking through the pregame huddle and the pregame preparation on the sidelines. You come walking over through where we are warming up and all of that, walking through the whole situation. That's disrespectful. I'm not doing a bro hug. And you know what? I think it's the way he should have done that. Don't put his hand in his chest. If you don't want to do the hug, just extend yourself out, reach out and just get a handshake and keep it moving. Don't get so close to where a hug may be anticipated. Kind of just like, you don't got to hug the brother. You know what I mean? You could be upset or whatever, but you don't got to hug the brother. I mean, you don't got to. It's a situation. It was a way to avoid the whole bro hug thing. Just kind of reach out and extend for the handshake if that's the case, right? You don't gotta hug him because everybody like, oh man, you gotta. It's a right way to show that. I mean, I understand what people are getting at, but you don't gotta hug Deion if he don't really want to. But that part, it kind of made it worse. So just extend. If you don't want to do the hug situation, just extend up, just reach out like this with the hand and keep it moving, right? Nonetheless, it is what it is. Let's go back to what was said after the game. He says, you know what, you ain't gonna do the bro hug situation with me. Then he says, what'd he say? He basically said, first of all, he's cursing in the press conference. Now, football coaches, especially like college football coaches, they do a whole lot of cussing. That's what they do. I've been around football teams. I've been around football players in school. I was close friends with football players. With football players, was my line brother in my fraternity. Kept Alpha Psi. He was a football player, right? And so they gonna cuss you out like it ain't nothing. But when you're in that post game press conference, you're supposed to keep it professional. When you cursing, and he ain't cursing like up a storm, but he letting some words out. Shit and damn and all this and, all that. I thought he was going to say the F word in a minute, but he doing some cursing, and I don't think that is a good, that's not a good, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a good image, or it's not a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Golly. It's not model behavior to show to your players, right? It's not a good example, I'm sorry. It's not a good example to set for your team, because they're going to think that in a professional setting, they can do all type of say whatever they want to say type of thing, right? And they already was calling Deion a B-I-T-C-H-A-S-S N-word, I think, or something like that, or a ho ASS N-word or something like that, whatever they said to Deion when he was coming through, right? So if you in here cursing in the post-game press conference, they might start thinking they can do that, or they can start throwing out some more profanities or vulgarities towards Deion Sanders in the aftermath of the whole situation. So you got to keep it professional. Even if you don't like what happened, you can say and convey your message without cursing in the public forum where the media is all on you. You can do that in a much better way than that, right? Now, this is the part I don't like. When they ask about Deion and all this and all of that, and he says, he ain't swag, I'm swag. He ain't swag. Now, I don't like that, right? Because, yes, Deion Sanders did not go to a swag school, but a lot of former great head coaches in the swag didn't go to swag schools either, including the late, great Eddie Robinson. No relation to Eddie Robinson Jr. that coaches at Alabama State. Eddie Robinson of Grambling. Eddie Robinson didn't go to a swag school either, right? Furthermore, too, and Deion didn't go to a swag school, but what he is doing for the swag schools is phenomenal. Like, the swag has been great. It's been the premier football conference for HBCUs. It's been a premier athletic conference for HBCUs. But the amount of fanfare, the amount of media attention, the amount of awareness that Deion Sanders has created for HBCUs by being at Jackson State, phenomenal. Like, he's done wonders. I mean, you got HBCUs playing on ESPN 1, ESPN 2, which when back in the day before Deion, we would only be able to get as good as ESPN 3. Nobody would talk about us on these sports debate shows. Nobody would have, we would just be at the bottom, at the little ticker at the bottom of ESPN. That was it. No coverage, no nothing. And this is coming from a guy who wrote an article on ESPN. I wrote an article about my boy Julian Stafford. JD was a phenomenal receiver at Mississippi Valley State University, right? I wrote about JD before we played FAMU. What was that? Right before my junior year. It got published on ESPN's website. And I was so great about that. I remember in the comment section of my article, people were commenting, who cares about these no-name schools? These are trash programs. Nobody cares about these black college programs. Who cares about these schools? Not even recognizing that some of the greatest football players to ever walk this earth came from historically black colleges, right? Jerry Rice went to my alma mater. The great Jerry Rice, one of the greatest football players to breathe oxygen on this earth, the greatest receiver of all time, but some say the greatest football players to ever play. Jerry Rice went to my alma mater, Mississippi Valley State University. Deacon Jones came from my alma mater. Deacon Jones is the guy who is responsible for the sack being a statistic, right? Of course, he went to was it Alabama A&M at first or South Carolina State Was it South Carolina State first, I think? Yeah, South Carolina State first. Then finished off at MVSU. Played at Valley, finished off and completed his playing career at Mississippi Valley State before going to the NFL, right? I say that to say that although a lot of great players have came from these historically black colleges, they were never getting the media coverage they should be getting before Deion Sanders arrived. Deion Sanders arrived, he brings all this fanfare to the HBCU programs, and he gets us national media attention that we need and makes it known that we don't have the resources that we should be having at these institutions, coming and trying to help Mississippi Valley State get a practice field, get some upgrades to their field, because we lack the resources that even the Jackson State or the other HBCUs like Howard or Hampton have, right? And it creates that conversation. So he's like, you can't say, so to say he ain't SWAC, nah, bro. Since he been in the SWAC, he been putting all eyes and ears on the SWAC consistently, right? Then he's the current reigning SWAC champion. So how he ain't SWAC? If he ain't, like he said, if he ain't SWAC, who's SWAC then? If he the reigning SWAC champion, he undefeated still within the SWAC conference. Come on, man. He is SWAC. Don't cut that out, bro. That's not okay. Also, man, I want to say this. Because that you ain't SWAC stuff, I kind of, and people may think I'm reaching, I kind of relate that to him saying like, you ain't black enough. You ain't SWAC. You ain't been over here with us in this struggle. And it kind of leads to that conversation about people feeling like if you ain't struggled or go through certain struggles in your life, you ain't really black to the core. I don't like when black people do that to other black people. Also, it goes to the wider conversation that sometimes I'm an HBCU alum. I went to a predominantly white institution for grad school, Arkansas State, but for undergrad, I went to Mississippi Valley State University, got my bachelor's degree, was there all 4 years, then did 2 years of the PWI for my master's degree at Arkansas State, right? But so I'm going to speak, me being an HBCU alum from Mississippi Valley State University, I want to speak to my HBCU alum. I don't like when we try to make other black people who went to PWIs feel like they're less black, or they're not really black enough if they didn't go to an HBCU. And that's what it's, that's the type of insinuation that I get from Eddie Robinson Jr. saying that Deion Sanders ain't SWAC. You ain't SWAC. It almost kind of can sound like you ain't really black enough almost. Like, you ain't SWAC, I'm SWAC. Like, bro, cut it out, man. Like, I don't like that type of rhetoric. I don't. Deion Sanders is as black as it get. Y'all know that. Even though he went to a predominantly white institution at Florida State, yes, he probably was not knowledgeable about HBCUs the way that we are. Sure, he from Florida, so down in playing in Tallahassee, so I'm sure he knew about FAMU and all that. And he's from Florida in general. But yeah, I'm sure his knowledge has increased about HBCUs. And look what he's doing. He's trying to get players the resources to all different schools in the SWAC, not just his own. So that's my point. I'm saying you can't just say, oh, you can't try to belittle him to make him feel like he ain't doing nothing, like, or he ain't advocating for the SWAC, right? Or he ain't SWAC. You can't make it seem like he ain't SWAC. Try to belittle him in that manner. That's not okay. That's something I don't stand for. That's something that I can never get behind at all. So yeah, man, I think that both parties did certain things the wrong way. Deion Sanders included. Eddie Robinson Jr. did things the wrong way as well. But the overall gist of this conversation is that, man, listen. This is an ongoing fight for HBCUs to get on equal footing, to get on at least get close to equal footing or level playing ground with the Power 5 conference schools or the predominantly white institutions. It's going to be a long battle. We don't get the endowments that these big institutions get. We don't have this established alumni base that donates millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars back to our schools like the other schools. But we always trying to improve and trying to fight to be able to get at least close to some of the resources that these schools get, right? That's what Deion Sanders is at Jackson State doing. He's building up their program, but he's fighting and advocating for other HBCUs. And Eddie Robinson Jr. acknowledged that for sure. But we shouldn't be out here bickering and fighting each other about some BS, man. Them brothers gonna get through this. They're gonna be cool. And they're going to continue building their programs up and pushing forward. And we should push forward beyond these conversations. And everything going to be all cool, man. They both are in the fight for improving HBCU athletic status and standards. And that's what it's about, man. Machiavelli Mills TV, I'm out. Peace.